Welcome to a very special episode, Aviation Style Baby Bucket List Coach Web Show Live. Well, hello. This is Cindy, your host over at Bucket List Coach Web Show Live, coming to you from Orange County, California. And just in a few weeks, we have the air show, Pacific Air Show here in beautiful Huntington Beach, California. And also this weekend, you can catch Miramar over right outside of San Diego. So a little background on the podcast. I've had this podcast since 2017, and 4 years ago, I started my aviation portion of the podcast. So every November is Aviation History Month. And also just last month, we had some great interviews for Aviation Week, which is always the 19th of August. So we have Jeff on the podcast today, and let's talk story. What's your aviation story?
My aviation story? Well, I grew up around airplanes. My father was a pilot at the end of World War II in B-17s, and so I always had a fascination with the era and the pilots and the sacrifices that the gentlemen and women did during the World War II era. And so started flying. My father taught me how to fly, and just went from being a student pilot, 16 years old, soloed, and got my private pilot's license, and went on and while I was in college, and got a lot of flying time before going in the Air Force. Did that for 8 years, and now I've been just about to retire from a career with FedEx, where I fly a 767.
Wow.
And but my passion is to be able to fly the P51 Mustang.
Well, let's play a video real quick, and then we'll continue on to the interview.
Awesome.
Let's get this going here.
Flying airplanes, getting away from terra firma, going and slipping the surly bonds of Earth and dancing on the clouds. That's the heart stuff of what we do. So I grew up in a flying family, kind of growing up around the local municipal airport, and my dad taught me how to fly as well as my older brother. It just became an in the blood kind of a thing, and now I've got the joy of teaching my sons how to fly. Besides the personal just dream come true, as a general aviation kid and growing up around small airplanes, you know that this airplane is a powerhouse. You know that it was an engineering marvel from its conception to its manufacturing and then on to changing the course of history. The moment you push the throttle forward for the first time and realize that it's ready to go fly, but there's still like 2/3 of the power left, that you keep pushing that lever forward, that gives me chills. And it's that moment where I realize behind this long snout that I'm in this stallion, I'm in this Mustang, and it blows my mind every time. I pinch myself, like I can't believe they let me fly this thing. But it's that moment taxiing out when you just get going, and it's this long, it's almost like the gallop begins in the Mustang. So I never considered a casual thing to fly the P51. In today's age, there's roughly 100 that are airworthy and flying in the world of the 15,000+ that were built. So this isn't something that I take for granted, and it's also not something that you can afford to not be completely focused. So I take flying this airplane as a huge responsibility. It's part of what our mission is. We educate the next generation, we preserve this airplane, and part of that preservation is treating it right. So it's a big responsibility. It's one that, again, is hugely satisfying to have the privilege to get to do that. Some days I get the opportunity to fly with people that are having their best day ever. And to be able to share a small piece of what is my dream come true to fly this airplane with other people that have had the same dream, and I get to share that with them and be there in that moment when they have that experience, that's a real privilege, and it's something that brings me a lot of joy, and it's really the reason we do what we do. My name is Joe Shetterly. I'm one of the pilots of the P51 Gunfighter, and it's an honor, and I enjoy every minute of it.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow.
That's a great video, isn't it?
It really is. Aviation is a huge part of my life. I actually grew up near Travis Air Force Base, and I remember being 16 years old and probably the only girl on the street who would get excited about that C5 flyover, aka Fred, you know.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what's going on this weekend.
Okay. Well, the Miramar Air Show is going on, so it's a huge event, one of the biggest air shows on the West Coast, and this year is focusing on Marine Corps Air. They're focusing on that. The Blue Angels will be there, one of the best acts there are.
Yes.
And lots of other great acts, so hope people can come out and enjoy. It's a free air show. It's put on by the government. It's your taxpayers' dollars at work. So come out and watch the show. It's going to be a great day.
Well, let's talk a little history on this plane.
You bet. Well, our P51 came out of the factory in March of 1945. It came out of Inglewood, California.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, where a good portion of the P51s were built. It was ferried by a WASP pilot over to New Jersey, where it got on a boat, and then it went over on a boat to Europe, although it didn't get there until July of 45, which by then the war was over. So it didn't actually see combat, fortunately for us, because it's here for us to be able to preserve now. After World War II, it came back to the States. It was in National Guard units throughout the U.S. It was at Chicago O'Hare. It was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Wyoming, several Air National Guard units throughout the U.S. until the 1950s. The late 57 is when it was decommissioned and went into private ownership. The Commemorative Air Force owns the airplane now, and we tour throughout the country with it. It's a nonprofit organization, and our goal is to share the airplane, preserve it, and honor the veterans and all the people that worked on and flew it.
Yeah, because the Commemorative Air Force was just in Sacramento not too long ago.
Well, the Commemorative Air Force is a big organization. We have over 170 airplanes that are flyable.
Yes.
10,000 members. And so we've got units throughout the U.S. and different air shows. We appear just every week in different events throughout the country. We tour with the airplane throughout the country. Our way of getting to be able to afford to preserve the airplane is by selling rides. And so we do that every weekend that we can. And that way we're able to share the airplane. We also appear in air shows throughout the country.
So let's talk about Chuck Yeager.
Chuck Yeager. Yes, he is one of the most famous P-51 pilots. Mm-hmm. He was quite the ace. And he was one of the ones that probably made the P-51 famous.
So it shot down a German jet fighter. What year was that? Do you remember what year that was?
1944. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So he was one of, there was lots of American aces that flew in World War II, and several of them got jet kills. Most of them were, I don't want to say by skill, but by kind of fluke and by coincidence that they were in the right place at the right time, because obviously the jet was a lot faster than the Mustang.
So have you ever worked with the Line Air Museum out here in Santa Ana?
I have not. I've heard of them, but I have not visited the museum. I heard it's pretty awesome.
And how about Torrance or Chino?
Well, actually, next weekend we're going to go up to Chino. We'll be at the Yanks Air Museum We'll be doing rides up there next weekend.
Oh, yeah. I actually was there during Aviation Week. Had a really great interview. One of the docents and the manager, she walked me around the facility, and they actually have an amazing boneyard in the back too. So it's a really, really amazing, I would say, aviation bucket list. So what are some of your favorite, because you're out of Florida, right?
Yes, I live in Florida. The airplane, the Gunfighter, is based in Florida in the off season. We do our winter maintenance in Central Florida, and it stays there from about November through April. Our first event is usually Sun and Fun, which is a huge air show on the East Coast that starts off the air show season every year.
Yeah. And how about the Houston Air Show?
Houston Air Show, we haven't been to in the last few years just because we have another event that we normally go to the same weekend. But it is another great show, and it's put on by the Commemorative Air Force in Houston every year. It's a great show.
So someone that was in the military, what is your advice for someone who wants to be a pilot in the military?
Study hard, get good grades, study the sciences, math in particular, but try and broaden your whole person by participating in sports, participating in other extracurricular activities, and that's military looks at all that when they're looking to try and decide who should become a pilot in the military.
So let's talk about the rides that you're doing this weekend. What is the cost? How can someone get a hold of you?
Sure. Yeah. The easiest way is to go on our website, which is P51Gunfighter.com, and they can get a schedule of our tour locations. They can also get an idea about what our rides entail. We give 20-minute and 40-minute ride experiences. The 20-minute rides are $2,500, and the 40-minute rides are $4,000. Fortunately, since we're a nonprofit organization and all volunteers, that money goes straight to maintaining the airplane. It's a very expensive airplane to keep going and keep it preserved, and all the money goes straight back to the airplane.
Well, let's do some shout outs, and then I want to close out, talk about maintainers. Who would you like to shout out? Any sponsors you'd like to shout out today, or who you're working with this weekend?
Well, we're at the Circle Air fixed base operator at Gillespie this weekend. It's a great facility, and founded by a fighter pilot who owns the organization here, and a good friend. He's got a great FBO here, and we appreciate their support. The airplane is maintained by a man by the name of Ashley Ezel in Florida, and he'll actually travel with the airplane to do routine maintenance throughout the year with us while we're on tour. He does an amazing job. He grew up maintaining warbirds, and he's a specialist in the P51 in particular. He keeps us very well maintained and does a great job of keeping the airplane going.
Well, let's talk about the maintainers, because I like to actually celebrate our aviation maintainers every year. I think it's around mid-May. It's Aviation Technician Day. Let's talk about how you feel about the importance of how much power it is of really having a good maintainer, and what the maintainers mean to you in this industry.
It's essential. It's absolutely essential to get great maintenance on the airplane. And it's attention to detail. It's continued work on the airplane all the time. And Ashley does an amazing job doing just that. He has been working on P51 since he was a kid. He knows the airplane inside and out. It is essential to keep the airplane well maintained. And boy, I tell you what, we take it into his shop and he'll listen to it. And just by listening to it, he knows what exactly he has to do working on the engine. And he maintains all the systems. P51 is actually a pretty complicated airplane and very specific requirements to keep it going. And he's the expert in it.
And so what are the steps for a young person to get involved and learn how to fly? How many hours, and how do you move, everything forward to get all your credentials?
Yeah, the best way is to just research You can get online and look for a school near you. There's a requirement from the FAA to get about 40 hours of flying time. Usually it takes about 10 hours of flight experience before you're able to go solo and build the experience that's required. Besides just the flying aspect, there's also a written test. And so lots of studying that's involved in trying to be prepared to about weather, about different information sources that you're responsible for as a pilot. So it's a fair amount of studying, but it's certainly well worth it, and a career that's certainly served me very well.
Very good. I actually want to do a shout out to Cajun's Aviation Dream. They're actually located here in Southern California. And so Stephen Dalbogno, he was a pilot with the U.S. Thunderbirds. Unfortunately, in 2018, there was a mishap with his airplane. So if you are a young person, definitely contact the Cajun's Aviation Dream. And they have a great scholarship program as well. And also a lot of what Jeff is saying, you could actually look on the show notes here on this podcast and you could connect with him. Definitely check out the Chino Airport. And that's really an amazing way to mark off your aviation bucket list. And of course, this weekend. Can you do your shout out of your website again and we'll close out?
Absolutely. It's P51Gunfighter.com. Got a lot of good information about the airplane, about the crew that flies it. We've got 6 pilots that fly the airplane, since we can't all be in one place at one time, so that we can keep the airplane going.
And what is your next stop after SoCal?
So we're going from San Diego up to Chino. Then after Chino, we're going up to Inyokern, which is up in the desert north of Edwards Air Force Base.
Okay. Very nice.
Yeah. And then we're going to Goodyear, Arizona, outside Phoenix, and working our way back east. We're going to have a Florida tour come the end of October and into November. And yeah, we'll close out the year doing rides in Florida.
And hopefully we could have you back in November for Aviation History Month, and I could introduce you to some of my other aviators.
Absolutely. We would look forward to that.
And one more time, go ahead and mention your Facebook and Instagram and your website, and we will close out.
Yeah, just if you search for P51Gunfighter.com, that'll help. And we're P51 Gunfighter on Facebook and Instagram. Lots of good information. My daughter runs our social media there, and she's always got interesting and exciting content there.
Yes, I love your content. That's actually what attracted me to get on the show today. So
Awesome.
If you hang tight for just about 30 seconds, I'm going to close out, and I'll see you back in the green room.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you having us on the show. Thank you.
Thank you so much.